っていきますか。とりあえず。ちゃんと起きれたしね。ちょっと待って。コメントビューは用意するの忘れた。ちょっと待ってね。いやさ、これね、VR チャットで教わったんだよ。なんかその、まあ、英語でさ、日本にもさ、いっぱいあるわけじゃん、言い方が。チンチンのさ、言い方っていっぱいあるじゃん。チンコもそうだし、チンポもそうだし。で、英語もさ、いろいろあるわけ。お。どういうこと？あ！音入ってんのかな、これ。うわぁ、なんだこれ。マジか？音入ってないか、ワンちゃん、これ。ちょっと待って、一回 BGM 消してみていい？何も入ってないよな、音。一旦ちょっと待って、ゲーム再起動してみる。ちょっと待って。もう一回。
しげひでさん、動ききめえな
ー。あ！音あります。これです、これ。いきなりおならみたいな音から始まったぞ。音でっかっ！うるさくね？音大丈夫これ？待って待って。音でっかっ！まあいいや、ちょっと音量調節できないのこれ。音クソでけえやん。うるさ。BGM いらないねこれね。BGM 消していいのこれね。音でっか。これどうにかなんねえのこれ。うるさ。これ音量変えられねえのま？これグラフィックスでしょ？コントロールしかない。あ、違う。まあいいや、ストーリーモードやってきますか、とりあえず。ニューゲーム！ Let's fucking go! I'm gonna play this fucking creepy game. おう。おお。音がやばい。下に行けと。何これ。Knock the apple of the tree. リンゴ落とせだって。あ、落としたよ。Press a space to perform but. 何？What the heck? What's going on? 鳥の音聞こえる？ちょっと待って。さすがに音小さくしすぎた。でも鳥のさえずり聞こえるこれ。アナザーアップル。これ食えだって。ケツに入れたらこれ。
お疲れさん。なーにこれ。
これね、チンチンゲームです。チンチンゲーム。あ、操作むずくねこれ。
しげひでさん。こんなクソみてえなことやらずにアークやれと言いたい。
アークはやりたいけど、 ちょっと待って、さすがにこれ気になる。だからね、今日ね、そんな時間ないのよ。2時間。2時間しか時間がない。髪の毛さ、1時に切りに行くから。どうやって食べんのこれ。あ、おー、食った。What the heck?うわぁ、操作きめー。なんだよ。There's space to from tip. To sandbox. あ、何？No one will ever love you. 誰もお前を愛さないって。
しげひでさん、音が一日指名。
うわー、なんだよめっちゃ誰もお前を愛さないってそういうことをいじめられるってこと？あー、なんだよ悪夢じゃねえか。なんだこれ。やばいやばいやばい。
John woke to the shrill cry of his alarm clock and lay there, rigid, his usual morning condition. But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight. A weight that had nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was weighed down by a piece of paper. The invitation to his high school reunion. From across the years, the words he'd heard in the schoolyard were still clear. You're a loser. No one will ever love you.
お前は負け組だ。誰もお前を愛さないって言ってるぞ。3 months until reunion. お前3ヶ月もこのままでいるま？うるせえ。Shut the fuck up, bitch!
John had 3 months until the reunion to turn his life around. First, he needed to clean up.
掃除が必要だって。おい、マジかよ、こいつ。
The only reason he'd ordered so much takeout was because Delilah, the delivery peen, made John feel butterflies in his testicles.
掃除しろってどうやって？あ、食べちゃいってこと？ Hunger! これ何このなんかべちょべちょ言ってるの？これ何？いらっしゃい。なんかだいぶエグいぞこのゲーム。どうやってクリーンディッシュ掃除しろって言ってるけどむずいぞこれ。このチーズケーキがあれか？チーズケーキ。あ、食べた。え、ダメ？来た。あとパイナップル？パイナップル。ねえこれさ、めちゃくちゃ操作しにくいんだけど、これさ、WASD しか使わないんだけど。ハングーおー、虫てく。
海さんの変な思考に慣れてるはずの海リスナーの困惑を隠せない模様。
これでもさ、これいくらだったと思う？ 80 円なんだよ。買うしかなくない？だって80円って言われたら買うしかないやろこんなの。私は気になってしょうがなかったよ、このゲームがどんなものなのか。ねえ、ご飯食べたって。
しげひでさん、80円でもやらんな。
80円だ。しかもマルチプレイができるらしいぞ、これ。
John called it his study, but it was basically for games and porn. Mostly porn.
ほとんどエッチな動画しか見てないんだって、こいつ。マーチポーね。あ、なんかついた。これポルノ？うわ。
ルカさん、
入ってる。
誰のポコチン？
誰のでもないんだよ、これは。これちょっと待って、BGM つけるこれ。
しげひでさん、 そんな暇ならアークやるし。
うるせえ、いいだろ別に。チンチンのゲームやって待って。
下疲れさん、飛行。今年も海外遠征延期おじさん涙で枕を濡らす。
私はね、行くよ。台湾。どう行くの？
John had left his apartment late, but if he caught the express bus, he might make it to work on time. John didn't really like his job, but it had two qualities.
待って待って待って。字幕が欲しい、字幕が。あ、うるせえんだった、これ。ここの音マジでけんねん。ちょっと待って。字幕欲しい。サブタイトル。サブタイトル。あったあったあった。来た来た来た来た来た。Continue. Okay. Okay. Let's go. あ、こっから
下疲れさん、台湾というとバラマンディですかね。
あ、私もバラマンディ。行くよ、この、7月行くよ。
下疲れさん、玉会もありましたってか。
玉会もあるよ、ジャイアントグルーパー。私はね、いいところに行くよ。紹介制の釣り堀だからね、めっちゃでっけえの釣れるの。アベレージ80だって。やばいね。動画にするわ。スペース。プロフォームティップ。What is Sandworks? I love you! No one will ever love you. 誰もお前を愛さないと。
下疲れさん、わお、大みたい。
いいでしょう。いったてめえ。あうわうわこれバカ。
John woke to the shrill cry of his alarm clock and lay there, rigid, his usual morning condition. But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight. A weight that had nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was weighed down by a piece of paper. The invitation to his high school reunion. From across the years, the words he'd heard in the schoolyard were still clear. You're a loser. No one will ever love you.
Fuck you! いらっしゃい。3 months until reunion. 社会復帰まであと。うるせえよ！うるしゃい！なんかこっちに。
John needed to shower and wash off the sweaty stink of desperate sadness.
シャワー浴びなきゃ。お、綺麗になった？綺麗になった？ OK、レッツゴー！
自爆ボタンさん、こんにちは。
いや、いらっしゃい。これね。
なんか映画やん。
なんかチンチンの冒険、チンチン RPG ですこれ。ピクナンアウトフィット。あ、服着れるだいぶグロスなくならないね。
John had 3 months until the reunion to turn his life around. First, he needed to clean up.
まず掃除せなあかんよと。Clean dishes。もう食っちまえと。
The only reason he'd ordered so much takeout was because Delilah, the delivery peen, made John feel butterflies in his testicles.
Hunger!
自爆ボタンさん、カブトムシがたくさんいますね。
そうなんだよね。カブトムシ？ 何の話だろう。
ジョちゃんさん、尿巻いてる。
飯を食うんだよ。パーキンシー。ああ。ハンガー。飯食ってるこれ。パイナップル食えないっぽい。なんかこれくっつくんですけど。バカパイナップルいらねえって。そこのなんかカビタパンみたいなやつ。わしは食べるんや。もうこれソースむずい。サボテン突っ込んでみる？痛いって。痛い。
ジョちゃんさん、マジでソーセーパーティー。
ソーセージ
John called it his study,
Soseji pa-
but it was basically for games and porn. Mostly porn.
これポルノだって。エッチな動画らしいぞこれ。見て。めっちゃ入ってる。うわー、エッチすぎるこれ。ちょっと過激だな。どうやってクリーンディッシーズやんのこれ。どうやって掃除すんのこれ。どうしろって言うんだよこれ。ご飯掃除しろって言うけどどうやってやんのこれ。レッツバーキングパイナポーピュッわかんねえ、外行っちゃおう。Let's go.
John had left his apartment late, but if he caught the express bus, he might make it to work on time. John didn't really like his job, but it had two qualities in its favor. One, he could pay his rent, and two, Barbara. Currently John's top candidate for his reunion date.
いけいけいけ、すべてのものを食らいつか
John
せ。
noticed a moderately attractive peen waiting at the stop.
はい、待ちます。
He was tempted to talk to her. He tried to start a conversation and didn't get the reaction he'd hoped for. It was probably because he was a minimum wage peen. She could probably sense it.
小さすぎて話にならなかったってこ
The
と？
office hummed with cold fluorescent lighting. The air was cold and stale, lifeless. How long had John worked here? Long enough to deserve better.
Fresh. あ？ Fuck off. やばい。ごめん。怒らせたっぽい。邪魔だって見とけ。なんかめっちゃかけてくるよこいつら。キモ。ゴミだ。It's a trap.
John was late, but he felt daring. He could sneak into the office through the archives, or he could stroll through the front entrance with enough confidence to bluff his boss.
遅刻しても大丈夫だったこいつ。こっそり入って帰ればってこと？Archives no entry. フレッシュコープ。入るなって書いてあるよ。でもさ、入るなって痛い。うわー。ね、入るなって書いてあるけどさ、入るなって言われたら入りたいよね。入るわ。
John decided to creep in through the archives.
どけ。え？死んでない？なんか死んでない？
Despite the obvious flaws, John thought it was a good plan and not a recipe for humiliation.
死んでないこいつ。まあチンチンに死ぬという概念はないか。ハンガー。 おいマジこれこっちから入るな。何なんかやばい音する。やばい音する。お。あ。
Everyone else was hard at work, grinding away. John might actually get away with this.
調子来る？
The boss. He homed in on John, deluging him with spit and buzzwords. The boss ran out of synonyms for John's failings and gave him an ultimatum. Barbara would definitely not be interested in dating John if he was unemployed. He had to get to the quality assurance department.
逃げられないま。
自爆ボタンさん、そうはならんやろ。
なっとるやろがい。
ジョちゃんさん、玉ハルス
23 of 23. 23点中の23。
There might be a faulty dildo just waiting to cost the company millions in lawsuits. John would have to test them all.
これテストしなきゃいけないらしいよこ
Every
れ。
atom of John's rectum began to vibrate with the frequencies of pure pleasure. His orifice was a paradise. This vibrator would end all wars.
このバイブレーションは全ての戦争を終わらせるだろうって。良すぎて。
That one was good too.
これもいい。50個もこれあんの？
Prostate Pounder X900 series? The most advanced vibrator on the
お
market.
やばいやばいやばいやばいやばい。
Sweet mother of no, John, that's too much pleasure for one anus to handle.
無理だよこれ。制御効かないって。あ。え What the heck? 何が起きてんの？あ、やばいやばいやばいやばいやばいやばいやばいやばいやばい。出てる出てる出てる出てる。暴れろってこと？暴れろってこと？壊せってこと？え
John's butt hurt, but his heart was proud. If that vibe had gotten out into the world, it could have injured a customer as badly as it had ravaged his anus.
ケツの穴を痛めるからあれはダメだって言ってる。
下疲れさん、
そりゃそうだ。
スタングレネード
スタングレネードかもしれん。
The boss arrived and congratulated John on taking one for the team and jumping on the hand grenade, or in this case, putting it up his butt. John was having trouble following the conversation because he was quite high on suppository painkillers. And then the boss said it. Promotion. Finally, the company was recognizing John's hard work and ignoring his minor faults like lack of talent, constant lateness, and flatulence.
ねえ、どうやって生まれては
John's new office smelt like polished wood and success. John's success. Sam dropped by. He'd heard John had been hurt. John said he was fine. He wasn't a softie to complain about a mildly ruptured rectum. Besides, he had a promotion to celebrate. John had met Sam in college during a sports ball game. He'd given him some stiff competition.
はい、私の勝ち。お前タコ。
Not stiff enough.
もっとサッカー部なめんじゃねえよ、
They'd
バカ。
started at Flesh Corp product testing together. Nothing builds a friendship like a long day of dildo mounting.
Dildo mounting。どういうことだよ。Oh
Yes,
shit。
John had known Sam for a while. But John couldn't hang out with Sam. He had a reunion to prepare for. He was going out with Barbara tonight. He just had to ask her.
バーバラと出かけるってこと？こいつバーバラ？これ誰こいつ？ Go find バーバラ。バーバラを見つけろっ
Everyone
て。
was
バーバラ
quiet,
誰？
listening to the presentation. A good moment for John to ask Barbara out.
ジョちゃんさん、
バーバラに
じゃなくて推し
バーバラに抜け出そうっていうのにめっちゃいいだって。おい、バーバラどこだよ。
That's not Barbara, John.
バーバラって誰？
Barbara agreed. Well, She
あ、
nodded.
こいつバーバラ
Sort
だ。
of. Things were really going John's way.
抜け出すぞバーバラ。抜け出そう二人で。どうね。
John tried to act as suave as possible and listened to Barbara talk business. He didn't want to blow his chances at long-term love and short-term sex.
あ、
Barbara began to talk about monthly feedback figures, and John started to zone out, imagining him and Barbara at the reunion, a power couple. She would make his classmates sick with envy, if he could get her to tone down the boring chatter. John's balls were gripped by certainty. Barbara was the perfect date for the reunion.
Show off your skills behind the bar. ああ、お酒作ってみせろってこと？
John thought he would impress Barbara by going behind the bar and showing the bartender a thing or two. Despite Barbara's protests that it was unnecessary, John knew that a true gentleman should follow her home. He was excited. There was still 3 months until the reunion, and he'd already landed his perfect date. All he had to do was seal the deal.
シールドディオってなんだろう？もうわかんねえよ。何？
Barbara thanked John for the evening and politely did not invite him inside for coffee or sex, even though John had dropped some pretty obvious hints he'd be into both, or just the sex. The door slammed on John's hopes. He didn't understand. He'd laughed at all Barbara's pie chart jokes. He'd listened to her boring stories. The blank eyes of the lawn flamingos were witnesses to John's shame.
え、入れないの？開いてくれるんですけど。どうすんのこれ？どうすんの？ね、バーバラのうち入れなくなっちゃったんだけど、どうする？こんなチンチンバード。
John began the lonely walk home, thoughts tumbling like shoes in a dryer. He had done everything wrong. Barbara had led him on just to humiliate him.
humiliate って何？人権与えるみたいな、そういうこと？どうしたらいいのこっから。あそこ一緒に入るべきだったの？わかんないわかんない。
John felt empty. How could he get love?
どうやったら相手にいられるんだと。
He felt like he was missing something, some key to attracting sex. But John was shooting blanks. What did Peens want?
何がしたいんだ俺みたいな、そんな感じかな。まあとにかくこいつはやりたいのか。
Then it hit John out of nowhere. Stuff. He had the success. He just needed to show it off. But where was John going to get all the stuff he wanted? John needed a sign.
サインが必要。何なの？
A new day, a new John. He waited outside his local buttload store for it to open, eager to spend his promotion bonus on stuff. The best way to impress women. If it was buttloads of stuff John wanted, then he would need buttloads of cash.
あ、金だ。よこせよこせ。あ、一個だけ？そうだよな。よこせよこせ。
There's nothing like a rectum full of money to make a peen feel like a man.
金よこせ金。あ、うるさいね。あー、めっちゃ入ってるめっちゃ入ってるめっちゃ入ってるめっちゃ入ってる。これ ATM さ、突っ込んだらもっと出てくるのかなこれ。Insert chip。先っちょ入れろって書いてある。はい。あ、もうないんだって。Insufficient funds。もうねえって。 何これ。おー、また入りにくいギミックだな。あ、これどうやって入んだよ。おい、なんかこれ、つぼじをなんか彷彿させる、なんかちょっとあれあるな。イライラすんな、これ。あ、無理じゃね？うるせえ、何も出すんじゃねえ、バーガー。
Suddenly it occurred to John that he was going to make a lot of choices. And every one of those choices would tell the world who he was. Did he want cheese or sausage? Also delicious.
Also delicious.
How could John decide? What would a date think when they sat in John's home? Comfort or style?
あ、こっちだろ。これだよ。
John went with comfort. Plus, it matched the couch he already had. John weighed up all the differences, but this was a tough choice.
何これ同じじゃん。どっちか買えってこと？左で。
Something told John this was the TV for him. John chose the extremely, obviously bad TV.
こっちだよ。
John realized that it was only 2 months and 29 days until the reunion.
Humans and 29
Time
days.
flies. Cactus or
絶対
rose?
こっち、絶対こっち、絶対
Was
こ
John
っ
a
ち。
rugged hero or a romantic poet? If John grew his own flowers, then he'd save on romantic gestures in the long run.
ロマンチックだよね。え、なにこれ？死に箱？あ？え？死ぬの？
There was nothing John could take with him to the
骨
grave.
こうなってんのかよ。けど、死んだら何も残んないからこっちでいいよね、別に。そんな安いんでいいんだよ。
Except his coffin. John liked to get his pizza delivered. That way he could see Delilah, the delivery peen. She always made him smile.
サボテンの方が喜ぶな。おい、またここでもパイナップルピザ論争だよ。パイナップルがやっぱ嫌いな人多いんだ。じゃあこっち取っとくか、無難にね。
John knew that Delilah thought pineapple on pizza was an abomination. What bedding would Delilah prefer? John couldn't help wondering.
絶対こっちだよ。こんなピザのやつよりこっちだよ。おしゃれな
Regular
やつにしろって。
just like the regular pizzas he regularly ordered. Devoid of any sense of style, buying new clothes would be John's toughest challenge.
Yeah, later I enjoy this game.
John decided to go with the outfit.
I didn't play so much.
Music, the food of love. Should John go retro sophisticated or just retro?
どっちがいいと思う？いや、私はこっちだね。こっちの方がおしゃれだと思う。やっぱ女の子を連れ込むにこっちで。
John was sure he
ちょっと
could
ね
just pirate
おしゃれ
extra
なやつがいいと思うよ。
records. Every can was made of metal, pulled from the bones of the earth, wrestled to the surface and smelted in roaring furnaces. All so John could buy peas preserved in salty water and stick them up his butt.
何これ？どっちも一緒だろ、こんな。色で選ぼう、青で。お、
John's new purchases were on the way to his apartment. All he had to do was invite a date over. One look at all his stuff and they'd be overwhelmed with sexual desire. John felt proud and also hungry. It gave him an idea. He should invite Delilah over for dinner.
なんかわかんないけど夕飯行くと。
John was excited. Delilah was on her way. He just needed to set the mood to romance.
ロマンスにはムードが必要。ミュージックはこれでしょ？え、待って待って待って待って。
Classy.
好 scatter roses. あ、バラをばらまけだって。え、ミュージックどこ？これでしょ？あ、来た。キャンドルだって。バラをばらまけだって。
John hoped she didn't have allergies.
キャンドルは？めっちゃおしゃれじゃん。あ、これか。これマッチ？来た来た来た来た来た来た。はい、キャンドル行きました。どう？
That must be Delilah at the door.
Get the door. 混ぜ混ぜ混ぜ混ぜ、曲がってる曲がってる。早く早く早く早く。上がった上がった上がった上がった上がった。あれ？
The door opened and there was Delilah. John gulped down his nerves and invited her in. John could tell that Delilah was impressed by his stuff. It was time to crank up the mood to seduction. John wanted to offer Delilah wine, but he'd already popped his cork. Delilah started looking as nervous as John felt. He assumed it was because she was shy too. They really were compatible. Of course, at the reunion, he couldn't mention Delilah was a delivery peen. That would be embarrassing. Delilah suddenly headed for the door. And just like that, John was alone again. Delilah hadn't even looked at his stuff. The rejection burned. John felt insignificant. He had everything he wanted. The job, the money, the stuff. So much stuff. He wanted to shove it into the abyss. Fuck off, inanimate objects. Die, couch.
Die,
His stuff didn't matter. He was a shaft in the machine. A lonely piston pumping away like all the others in his rigid place. Nothing special about him. Why should Delilah or Barbara or any other peen be interested in dating him? He was just like everyone else and they could tell. John wanted to be special, but he had to face the numb truth. He wasn't. And all the money and stuff he'd ever accumulate wouldn't change that. He thought it would make him unique, but it just made him more like everyone else. He should leave it all. Get out of this little town and go on an adventure. See the world. He was a boring corporate drone, but he didn't have to be. He could be a traveler, exploring jungles and climbing mountains. He could visit the wonders of the world and get his picture taken. Like Peony Island, the unspoiled paradise he'd seen on TV. That was it. John had to travel. Bags packed, John was ready to put 5,000 miles between him and his problems. He was leaving it all behind. John was so close, he could almost smell the freedom of the skies. Security sent John back through the detector.
Empty pockets. ポケット空にしろって。どうやってだよ。あ、どうやるの？マジでどうやるの？もうわかんないよこのゲーム。なんか捕まっちゃったし。どうやってポケットからにするの？ How? Tell me! How can I empty my pockets? どうすんだよ。あ、入るこれ。どうすんのマジで。
John had forgotten he had his nail clippers with him. He'd have to buy another pair soon, or he'd look ridiculous. When the acceleration of takeoff had slackened, John felt a sweet relief. He had left his worries on the runway. He was up in the clouds, on his way to adventure.
やば。どうなった？
John's adventure had begun at last, and clearly it was a small world after all, and also a flat one. That was going to piss off the globeheads.
何？どうすんの？なんか頭にうんち巻いてないこいつ。どこに行くか決めろってこと？あ、世界を旅しろってことか。ヘビいるぞ。なんかやべえのいるって。ゼロライク。
ジョちゃんさん、日本でいいんじゃない？
日本そこだよ。日本ここだよ。日本ここ。これ日本だねこれ。あ、壊した。こんにちは。Expected more tentacles. What? さあアメリカがあるはずなんだけど、あ、宇宙に行っちゃうんだ。それはダメだね。日本に戻って、あれだ、これオーストラリアじゃん。痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛い痛 こいついつまでついてくんだ。南極。あ、死んだ。こいつアフリカに住んでるのか。北極ってことこれ。アメリカだ。ハリウッド。Let's fucking go! で、こいつお尻に突っ込めばいいんだな。違うの？こいつお尻に突っ込めばいいってことじゃねえの？動物殺してない？お、発射したぞ。お尻に入んないま。どうすんのじゃあこれ。ハリウッド全部壊せってこと？ちなみにね、この辺に私がね、行ったガイアナがあります。これガイアナ。南米。これ絶対入るやつやん、これ。これ。It was this big! でかかったぞと。あ、お金ない。どうやってお尻に突っ込むの見つけるの？あ、これか、もしかして。これに違いない。あ、来た。
John was having fun, but something told him he needed to go home. Probably his empty bank account. John was on his way back home. He was out of money, but money can't buy love. What it can buy are the experiences that had made John a more interesting and developed person, with 100 Instagram photos to prove it. Finally, everything was going smoothly. John felt good to be back on the familiar ground of home, but he would feel better to be on the familiar mattress of home. That's not John's bag. Not that one either. Nope. That's probably the right one. Close enough anyway. Despite John's swell of fresh optimism, traveling was exhausting, and he just really wanted to get home and get some sleep.
お家借りますか。ただいま。今のはランチマ？自分のロッカー？これだ。ディックフェイス。あ、ラブレターだ。バーバラのロッカーどれ？バーバラのロッカーどれ？これだ。でも誰もお前を愛さないと。うわ、なんだ。いじめっ子いっぱい出てきた。
Another nightmare. John's stress about getting a date for the reunion was making him think of her. Harmony. He hadn't seen her in years. Would she be at the reunion? John shook off the thought. He wasn't a child. He was a fully grown penis.
ガキじゃないよと。俺は立派なチンコだと。
John, why is the bathroom barricaded?
Foreskin's sake! Is that a swan? John had no idea how it had gotten into his home or why it hated him so much. It would probably be best to leave it alone.
ほっとくのがいいだろうって。うるせえ。シャワー浴びんだよ、私は。綺麗になりましょうね。ほっとくのがいいと。バカめ。
John's butt started to buzz. Had he left a vibrator up there? Whatever it was, he should get it out.
これ？こん中か。
John's old phone. They really were
What is-
indestructible. It was Sam calling.
サブが電話してきたらしい。サブだってこいつ。なんか言ってるよ。なんて？
He wanted to check in on John. The travel looked fun, but it was so sudden. Was John okay? Sam was such a softie, always worrying about feelings. John had only one feeling, and it was the feeling of being awesome. He could drop Sam a text, but John was on a mission. The reunion was getting closer, and he had to get a date. Fortunately, John knew exactly where to find love.
愛を知ることになると。
John held his breath. He was about to meet his match. He had to reassure himself he could do this. He had a good job. He had nice stuff. He had traveled. He was ready to find love.
Find the perfect match. バラだ。
On Weena, where all his sexy travel photos would give him the pick of the pack.
これ39歳って書いてあるぞこいつ。いいのかお前。ウェイナーだって。ウェイナー。
Too short. Too much foreskin. Hot.
Let's grab some
Sexy.
noodles.
Very nice.
Meat and great. おばさんじゃんいいの？
Not enough foreskin.
Nice shaft.
やっぱ若い方がいいよね。
Very hot. glasses.
1 hour later. 1時間ごと。Want a party? Yes. Yes.
Yep, the pick of the pack.
あ、もうとりあえずマッチすればいいと。もういいよ、みんないいんでしとこうじゃん。もうしょうがない。Many hours later! 数時間後。
John had the pick of the pack.
Finally! I got a match.
John valued
Daniel,
honesty in a date, but he had been expecting a different kind of dirty. A sexy and much more hygienic kind.
え、マジで来たね。不衛生だよ、こいつ。絶対性病やん、こいつ。愛を探しているアイスクイーンらしい。
John was scared of getting circumcised so late in life.
Oh, better put that on ice.
What the heck?
It'll be okay, John. Chicks dig scars. I hope.
え、やば。治んの今の。えぐ。
After the reattachment surgery, the doctors had told John to rest. So he did, for 6 hours.
6時間も映画見たの？映画じゃないからコメディーナイトって。笑っ
John
てるら
was
しい。
in stitches.
ジョちゃんさん、5時間の映画ってなんや？
なんかインドの映画とかってそんなもんだよね。
Karen had invited John straight over. She was not fooling around. Very exciting. And now she wanted him round the back. Karen let John know that the cake was only for the kids. So was the candy. And the piñata. And that she'd be back in 1 hour.
このガキの子守をしろと。ダメだよ、お前逃げちゃう。お、ガキのお世話ができたぞ。ビジネスのピクニックが好きで再開した。どういうこと？
John laughed at Melody's hilarious bullfrog story. She was adorable. Everything was going perfectly.
お母ちゃんとても愛らしかったと。え？急になんだよ。え？
John never saw Melody again.
メロディどっか行ったんだけど。飛んでったぞ。
So far, Weena had been a parade of weirdos and rejections. If this date didn't work out, John vowed to give it up.
マジかよ。
Maybe this time, maybe today would be his day.
シャロナ。
Sharona sighed and said, "You'll do."
何デートしてんの？
John felt a little underdressed and a lot overwhelmed. He was surrounded by strangers, and Sharona was glaring at the muscular groom.
John realized that Sharona had only brought him to create some penis envy. What a terrible plan, for so many reasons.
かもしんない。
John got excited. They were going to cut the cake.
He's mine!
Take your
Sharon
Toto.
screamed as she launched herself at the newlyweds.
え
Suddenly, penises were up and yelling, "No, he's mine!" It was a no-holds-barred cockfight.
危ない危ない危ない危ない乱闘なってる乱闘なってるねえなんでこっち来んのなんでこっち来んのやめてやめてやめてやめてやめてやめてその包丁やめて逃げるよ私は
As John dodged flying glasses and
Oh,
cake, he felt a stab of envy. The groom had dozens of penises after him, and John had none. It was just wrong.
いやマジで知らんマジで知らんやばいや
John
ばいやば
left
い
the
やばいやばい
screams and explosions behind him.
事件だよ。
It was a disastrous end to his online dating.
えぐえどうすんの逃げろってこと
He had tried everything,
Akira.
and it just wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough. Maybe the bullies from school were right. John was a natural-born loser.
ジョンは生まれながらの負け組なんだと
Swans were so simple. If you gave them bread,
シンプじゃないよ今のはなんかそのマッチングした女と一緒に結婚式に行ってそのマッチングした女が新郎のことが好きでじゃあ新婦あれ新婦ってあれか漢字が違うだけか
They liked you.
そうだね
but you can't take a swan to a reunion.
まあ嫉妬に狂った女がやばかったってことだあと少しで私が切られるところだったよあぶねえあんなとこで死ぬわけにいかんねえあうわ
John wanted what that groom had. Love. Real love. The kind that makes penises fight to the death.
どうせ霊覚してんの私をマスだって仲良くなってんじゃんこいつと
Days later, the question was still bugging John. Why were so many penises in love with the groom? But no one loved John.
みんな愛されてるのに自分だけ愛されてないみたいなそんな
It
感じ
wasn't
かな
fair. John deserved attention. He had money and Buttstagram pics of his adventures. He even still had quite a lot of stuff. What did that penis have that John didn't?
みんなによってジョーにないものはなんだ、まあ、とりあえず食事をしますとハングーどう何急にディッシースって食事しろって意味じゃないのあ、終わったテレビ見ようぜともうチントレしてるチントレ
Then it hit John. That penis was so strong and hard. That's what everyone wanted. That's what John wasn't. That's what John had to be to find love. It was time to hit the gym.
なるほどヒッタサックどういう意味ジムに行って鍛えるんじゃないの
John arrived at his local gym. A part of him couldn't believe he was here. He just wasn't a gym penis. But John had tried everything else. If he wanted to get the perfect date, he'd need to sign up. Sam? What was he doing here? Of course, Sam was married. John's theory was right. If you get muscles, you get love.
なるほど。
Out of nowhere, Sam asked John how he was doing. Really doing. For a moment, John wanted to be honest. But he didn't come to gym to be a softie.
開いた。
John was here to get hard.
俺はもう
It was
マッスル
John's first time in a gym since school. He tried not to read too much into that. Sam went on ahead with a chipper promise to meet up with John inside. John had two options. He could try month by month, or if he signed the 10-year Big Muscles Big Savings contract, he'd get a free easy squeezy water bottle.
これで
John wasn't a sucker. He knew the importance of hydration.
水の重要さを知っていたと。これってこと？行くぞ。もう俺はこの前までの俺じゃないぞと。もうジムで強くなるん
The
だと。
gym's clean peen pool policy meant that John would have to do something he had never done before. Get naked in front of strangers. Maybe he could set a record for speediest cleanse.
裸になるんだって。Get naked. はあ。こんな感じ？
Naked, John could feel the blanket of steam intimately against his private parts. John tried rinsing off in the toilet bowl. He did not get clean. John pretended he was alone and not surrounded by wrinkly, wet cocks.
やってんだこいつ。邪魔すんな。掃除してんだよ今。綺麗に
What
なっ
was
てん
John
のか
nervous
さ。
about? That he would be laughed at? There was nothing funny about a naked penis.
なんだこいつ。邪魔すんなお前。どけどけ。スイムスーツ。あ、水着に着替えろと。
Very fetching, John. It
What?
even matches your
水着らしい。
taglines.
行くぞ。
Time to conquer the pool. Sam enthusiastically greeted John and offered to show him around, obviously not realizing that John was a natural athlete. John stuck close to Sam, just to make sure Sam knew John could swim, not because John was worried about drowning. No, not that. The pool was like baptism, the icy water washing away John's flabby flab. He found his stroke, gliding through the water like an eel with large, ungainly testicles. This wasn't hard. John couldn't believe peens actually got gold medals just for splashing around. Maybe he could become an Olympian. He was slowing down a bit, flailing a bit, but John pushed on, knowing that looking good in a Speedo was the only thing that could save him from an empty existence.
まあこいつはスピードが落ちないけど私は落ちるってことね。
ジャンさん、水面歩いてる。
John wanted to take a break. Forever. The pool was not his friend. It was not the blissful wet dream of his fantasies. It was a hellish prison of murderous fluid, determined to drown him. No wonder life crawled out of the sea, desperate to escape the water.
水泳はきついよね。わかるよ。
Done.
やりきった。
John
偉い
had not drowned, but more importantly, he had not quit. Time to hit the weight room. John's muscles bunched and bulged. The time in the gym was already paying off. Fresh from conquering the pool, John felt ready for anything the gym could throw at him, even heavy metal weights. Clearly, John knew how to handle equipment. Sam cheered John on, as if he needed it.
何やってんだこいつ。
Adrenaline coursed through John's veins, his butthole clenched like a
頑張っ
fist.
てます今。 めっちゃ頑張ってます。いけいけいけいけ。頑張れ頑張れ頑張れ。
John was forging himself into the peen he saw on movie screens, bulging and sweat-slicked, hard and shiny.
いけいけいけいけ。
Boom! John was cocked and loaded.
やったぞ。
Didn't Sam ever get out of breath? The stream of encouragement was exhausting.
もう疲れ果てたと。
John, getting flung from fast-moving
Yeah,
objects since preschool. Slow and steady. That's right, John. Like a lover. Or pouring gravy.
おい邪魔すんなバカ。ウォーキングマシンのこの
That
回
had
を
gotten John's heart rate up and his life expectancy down.
これ何
John was
絶対お尻
sweating
の
like a
やつやん。
senator on a sex tape. But he wasn't done. John took a deep breath, clenched, and pulled. Sam made this look so easy. John squashed the thought. He'd just have to push harder. John tried to make eye contact with Sam, getting his head a bit.
サムに勝てと。
Sam didn't seem to notice John, but John could tell Sam was impressed. Even though he still hadn't looked at John, not that it mattered to John, because John was in the zone, deep in the zone.
やった
With the sound of a deflating truck tire, John's sphincter gave out. Sam congratulated John for trying and told him it was okay to take things slow, as if John was going to quit. Well, he wasn't. John had a mission, and the reunion was getting closer.
焦りすぎてこの人がダメってことなんてことだ。じゃあ肉を食えと。ハングル。働けと。どれだ。めっちゃジョギングしてるけどダメ。オッケー。お、肉食う量が増えました。またジョギングすんの？なんか速くなってるよ。どれで勝つんやこれ。よし、オッケー。もうこの水を制圧しろと。おらー！お肉タイム。働いた。さあ自分に自信もつきました。うんうん。誰これ。あ、影ロデーズ来てない？ 学校こんな危険な場所なの？うわあぶねえ。なんか死んでない？死んでない？私死んでるの？Go through the door on the left. あ！どういうこと？どういうこと？なんか死ぬんだけど。待って、これマジでカギローディーズ来てるって。8月14日の午前12時過ぎくらいのこと。元気がいい。待って、一番最初に見つけ出したいってさ、あれ私だったってこと？あれ伏線ってこと？ダメなの？ No one will ever love you. 誰もお前を愛さない。またかよ！
As soon as John woke up, the mirror called to him. His abs looked like a pack of vacuum-sealed hot dogs. Tasty. Jim had remade John into a sculpted Adongus.
わからん。何言ってるかわからん。
He was finally everything a peen should be. Successful, traveled, and photogenic. It was time for his morning pre-gym workout.
トレイトミラー？なんだそれ？トレイトミラー？トレイトミラーって何？これのこと？よく見たらなんか腹筋みたいの割れてんだけど。待って、このトレッドミルってなんだ？あれかな？これのことだ。多分ウォーキングマシンのことだ。
The reunion invitation caught John's eye.
待って、招待状を読み直せって。
He read it again. And again. Stunned. He'd gotten the date wrong. Very wrong. The reunion was tonight.
おい、同窓会今日じゃねえじゃん。やば。同窓会今夜らしいぞ。
He'd have to go alone. They'd all be there, and they'd look at John and they'd know he was still a loser. No, there was still time.
まだ時間はある。
John needed a date fast. He'd have to go out. He'd have to make an impact. John had to dress his best, only better.
Hit the crops. これってこと？Hit the crop? カニ？違う、カニはワルだ。クラムってなんだ？どうすりゃいいの？何するの？
There had to be someone single and desperately alone in the city. Someone besides John. He just had to find them.
誰か探さなきゃ。
John went straight to the nearest bar. Sure, it was still early, but he couldn't waste any time. There must be some day drinkers he could pick up.
うるせえこいつ。 おい、ピヨってるピヨってる、なんかヤクザいっぱいいるって。
It was a classy place. Even the vomit was high
ゲロ吐い
quality.
た。汚な。
The bouncer looked like a hagfish that had taken up lacrosse.
コックピットって何？
John
Drinking
stepped into the bar
curry.
and saw her. The answer to the question, what was John's purpose? Her. Loving her. Being with her. Taking her to the reunion. Their eyes met and John knew she felt the same.
彼女をお父さんに連れ
Gladys
てきたい
did not feel the same. But John wasn't going to give up on their life together.
もう諦めるこ
A
とはない
couple
と。
of drinks would loosen her up to their destiny.
Use E to school. あね。
Wow. Gladys was not an amateur when it came to drinking. John had to keep up. It was working. Gladys was definitely warming up to John.
いいね。4杯飲めと。オッケーオッケー。さあ飲め。
John's bladder was very full. It sloshed audibly as he moved.
Let's go. Wait.
Holy balls. John had never felt such relief.
何や、怒られてるって。さっきの女の子は
John looked around. Gladys was gone. John cursed his petite bladder.
どっか行っちゃったよ、女の子。
The bored bartender shrugged and told John Gladys had left because some creep was trying to get her drunk.
その金目やつを見つけてやると。おい、どこのドイツさん。私の女持ってった
The
の
bar
は。
was empty. The creep must have left too. It was clear the cockpit was on autopilot. Time for John to hit the next bar.
もう5時間半しか残ってないじゃん。
John's anxiety had sunk under the surface of the beer he'd drunk, while his confidence was floating high. This was the place he'd find love.
Chinpoggers.
It was empty, except for the bartender. Clearly this bar's only special was unhappy hour. Two for one was a good deal though, and so far the beer had lifted John's spirits. Another 4 would make him feel twice as good.
飲むってこと？お前これ飲むの？あ、なんさっきもう一回ビール買おうよと。買ったよ。またビール飲むの？お前また飲んで吐くぞ。
The bartender gave John a smile that set his heart hammering. He had to impress her.
テープ。バーテンダー口説くってこと？何？ライテープ。もっと？はい。お、なんか男いた。
What was so offensive about offering a big tip in exchange for a date? John had thought bartenders loved tips. He needed to find a better club. one with a vibe.
もっといいやつを見つけないと。
John was drawn by the pulse of the music. It pulled him forward like a moth to a fiery death. John was running out of time to find a date and prove that he wasn't a loser.
追い出された。チップ払いすぎて。Love at first glance ってなんだ？わかんないけど。
Dancing, the real way to flirt, the way of animals, of wild sexual creatures. John strutted and shook his booty. With booze buzzing round his head, John found himself on the dance floor. Everyone was up close and sweaty. John was exhilarated. He felt alive. John was working himself up to try a little bump and grind.
早くね？お前らすごいな。イエーイ、ダンス系。
It was a moment out of a movie. John alone on the dance floor with a gorgeous penis, their sexual chemistry exploding.
彼女と踊ろう。
She moved away, coyly. John could tell when someone was playing hard to get.
やばい。これうまく踊れないと。またあれだろ。
He let her marinate in the tension before making his move.
来た。ギリ。お、踊れた。どう？
John wasn't taking no for an answer.
ダメ。なんで？ 彼
Some
氏いたってこ
people
と？
have no sense of fun, but John was certain the next bar would be different.
もう次のは絶対に違うと。
The
嘘でし
next
ょ？
bar wasn't different. John couldn't understand why everyone was so sensitive.
蛇の穴。
It was like no one wanted to have a good time.
おい、こいつこんなに
Like no
体
one
が
had
上
a
げて
sense
る
of humor. John had meant that as a compliment.
の。嘘でしょ？
When did the world get so uptight?
誰からも愛されないでしょ、マジで。あ、
John's ego was as bruised as his shaft. He had to admit it. He'd failed. He was where he belonged, in a creepy murder alley covered in trash. John would have to go through the garbage to get out. Oh, that's gross.
うわ、黒い。
Oh, it's so moist, but textured. John's misery was sour in his mouth. He needed a drink to wash it down. There was still one bar he hadn't been kicked out of yet.
まだバーンされたことない。バーに行くとまた行くのこいつ。懲りないね。
John had cleaned himself up as much as possible. He really needed a mint.
ミントが必要だって。あ、綺麗になった。Fire with Rainer。まあ、Tinder みたいなもんだね。ああ。あ、どうやって入れるのこれ難しくね？入んないよこれ。
John got it in.
入った。
Nailed it.
やったぞ、ついにやった。
John let out his anger, his frustration. Life was a shitty joke. It wasn't fair. You want to mess with John? Do you?
Press return to headbutt. Return? あ、え？リターンってどれ？リターンってどれ？ 直線にばらまいてんのに。あ、リターンってどれ？何の話？
しげひでさん、飯の用意行くわ。
はいよ。リターンって何？どういうこと？リターンって何？どうやってやんの？おい。あ？リターンってどれ？
This is what you get.
エンターか。
Fuck you, you fucking thing. You
Fucking
had one
shit.
job. Die, 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 die!
死ね死ね死ね死ねと。
It's not
この
fair.
クソ。
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not.
Yeah, I finally did it.
That's how you get what you want.
やった、ミントゲットしたぞ。コーナー行きますか。
John wanted the strongest drink they had.
Drink.
Rough night? Someone asked John. He hadn't noticed her when he came in, but now he did. It really had been a rough night for John, but he felt a little better that someone cared enough to ask.
酒飲むと。
It was a pity they were only sort of attractive,
メガムーブ。メガムーブ。
but destiny had given John a second chance. John made his move. Unfortunately, according to Alice and to her boyfriend Chadrick, it was the wrong move.
あ、間違えた選択だったってこと？もう、わかん
Chadrick
ない
threw
よ。
John into the alley and followed, making unoriginal but still terrifying threats.
おれ
Get him, John.
ボコボコにしてやるよ、お前なんか。おれ
Watch. Don't hold back.
もうダ
Give
メ
it
だ
to
と。
him. Brutal.
やっちまえと。
Yes. Yes.
俺は強いぞ、お前なんかよ。おれおれおれおれ。
John had survived. No, he'd won.
勝った。
He'd won. He'd won. He wasn't a loser. And there was the proof lying in a bruised, bloody heap. John didn't need a date to the reunion. He needed to go over there and beat the pre-cum out of those dicks. High school
みんな
reunion,
ぶっ倒して
the
やると。
perfect time to teach someone a lesson.
もう誰かを分からせてやると。Go out of here. Get out of here. もうこんなところ出ていくと。ドキューザコども。ほれ。分からせてやる全員。これで。
The doors of the school.
School.
A sight John had dreaded every day for years, and now he was going willingly through them, unafraid, fueled by years of unprocessed anger fermented in loneliness. John was back.
俺は帰ってきたぞと。ようてめえら。
The chickens were coming home to roost, and they were all cocks.
いじめっ子を見つけろと。ぶっ殺してやんだ、いじめっ子を。おれ。おい、てめえか。てめえ
These
か。
were the peanuts he'd grown up with, now with jobs and marriages and beer bellies. John was surprised at how ordinary they had all turned out. He spotted
てめえ
them,
か。
John's tormentors. Time for them to feel the wrath.
分からせてやると。Put grease.
How
Fuck
do you
you.
like that?
おれ。ワンボイフォーか。
Whoa!
ワンボイフォーってわけね
That's。the stuff, John.
おれ。
Fight back, John.
戦うぞ私は。これ勝てると思うな私に。
Get in there.
あれあてめえ
Careful.
あれまず一人まず一人あ やってやるよお前なんか。あれ
Don't let up.
あれ
Ha! Who's a loser now? Who?
おい誰だ、負け組は誰だ、てめえか俺。おい来いよおめえ、来いよてめえ俺。 Fuck
Take
you!
off the pain, buddy.
Fuck you!
John had won. He'd won. No one could say John was a loser now.
そうだ、誰も私は負け組として負け組としてはできない。
John's primal joy faded as he saw how the other penises looked at him. Not like a winner, like he was trash.
ゴミを見るような目で見られたと。なんだよ。なんだよ。
John tumbled down the steps, hitting every bruise on his length and his ego.
何をしたって言うんだ。
It was her, Harmony. She had been at the reunion. She'd seen it all and followed John out. To laugh at him more? No, to see if he was all right. Why did that hurt John so much? This was John's chance to ask her why all those years ago she'd said to him, "No one will ever love you." Harmony stared at John in shock.
こいつ
How could John not know why? Didn't John remember what he'd done?
何をしたか覚えてないのって。ああ、もうダメだこいつは。先に溺れた。どうすんの？終わり？なんか違うぞ。リンゴないけど8じゃんこれ。え？出かけないか聞こう。ねえ出かけない？やだって。え、マジ？今度こっち？おい、やばいってこいつ。なんでこんな醜い姿になっちゃったお前。エンディング？会社もダメ、食事もダメ、買い物したけどダメ、バーバラもダメだし、マッチングアプリもダメ、学校にいたいじめ、恋いじめ返してもあ、さあ化け物がやってきました。今度私の番だ。そういうこと？ 6 hours later 6時間後。え、別人になったってこと？
There was nothing Sam enjoyed more than the fresh air of an early morning. The dew sparkling on the grass, the music of the trees, space to think.
じゃあね、私もでもね、あと30分。
Sam stared at the view, peaceful.
待って、これ2人でできるってこと？
What was that smell? It made Sam's eye water.
なんでこんな毛がいっ
It
ぱい
was
ある？
John. passed out and crusted with vomit and regret.
ジョン、大丈夫かお前。ジョン。
John was awake and tolerably clean. Sam tried to be gentle and invited John to join him on his walk.
これ2人、ねえ待ってこれさ、2つのチンコを私1人で扱ってんだけどこれ。
Sam coaxed John along. It was like herding compost.
汚な。起きろ。レディールマイトちゃうぞお前。そんな先に溺れて。
John couldn't answer Sam's questions yet. How had he ended up such a wreck?
またかよお前ほんと手のかかるやつだな。クズじゃねえか。ねえこれさ2つのチンコ同時に扱うのマジでむずい。ホットドッグ食べていいの？そっちなんだ。食べるのそっちなんだ。
Sam couldn't resist the tasty treat. John immediately felt better, but his head was still pounding, and not in a good way. The throbbing ache dulled. John was feeling much more himself, and he realized that was not what he wanted to feel.
なんか警察みたいなやつけど何これ。おしゃれすんの？
If only John could fly away from his pain as easily. Even that bit of senseless destruction couldn't cheer John up.
服着るってこと？何やってんの？バーベキュー麺。危険すぎるよ。
Sam saw his friend's misery. He suggested they keep going.
行こうぜと。
John wanted to know something. Why didn't anyone love him? As soon as he said it, he felt like a softie, whining about his feelings.
うわー、何？誰もお前を愛さない理由は何だと？
But Sam didn't make fun of him. Sam asked him to go on. And so John told him the whole story about how hard he'd made himself and how unfair it felt, and everything he'd done.
多分めっちゃいいやつじゃん。
Saying it out loud, John realized he'd sounded like an asshole. But he'd done everything right. Why didn't he get what he wanted? Why didn't John get love? Wanting someone isn't the same as loving them, said Sam. You'll figure it out, John. But you have to keep trying.
Keep trying.何でもチンチンに入れるやん。
How about a bike ride? Sam asked.
おお。
John struggled to get his balance, but Sam told him not to give up. John kept trying, getting better as they went.
はやはやはやこいつ。いいね、自転車爽快感あるね。ドキドキドキドキ。ドキドキドキドキ。なんでそんなみんなびっくりするんだよ。いいじゃん別に自転車乗るぐらい。なんだよ。なんやねん。おう。
John and Sam stopped and looked at the sunset. For a moment, John let himself be quiet and listen to the world and look at how beautiful it could be.
世界はこんなにも美しいと、それを理解したんだね、ようやく。自転車の旅はここで終わりだ。
Life can be hard, said Sam, but that doesn't mean we have to be.
まあ人生は大変だけどそういうもんだと。え、終わった？まあ結局こいつは彼女できなかったけどめちゃくちゃいい友達に恵まれましたよと、そういうことかな。あ、すげえ。ビッグフラワーズ。邪魔すんの邪魔すんの。セラピーに参加する？Paint your emotions. Gotcha. こいつの線をしろと。サムの子供？お前結婚しとるんか？ Help, I'm old already. まずいまずいまずい、それはまずい。レディー死んだ。レスキューキルン。無理だった。ライト。操作むずい操作むずい。バット。ウォッチタイタニック。お、タイムリーだね。うわ、ひどいな。おいおいおいおいおい。涙を流せと。これ涙だったの？ちょ、うるさ。終わった？あれこれ女？ごめん。なんで謝ってんの？さっきいじめちゃったから？え？ なんかすごい嫌な音したけど。Thanks for playing! なんか一応クリアしたっぽい。ジェニタルチョースティング。まあ一応クリアってことでじゃあ今日この辺で終わりにするか。まあストーリーよくわかんなかったけど。なんかほぼほぼわかんないゲームだったな。まあじゃあほな終わりますか。じゃあちょっともうよくわかんなかったけど、とりあえずクリアしたっぽいので終わります。うるせえな音楽。じゃあまたね。バイバイ。ちょっとまだあれだね。次はできればマルチプレイやってみたいね。マルチプレイできるっぽいから。ありがとう。じゃあ、お疲れ様でした。